Hello, this presentation will provide information regarding the Green Bay Area Public Schools attendance boundary realignment process. We will begin with background information and an overview of the realignment process. Following the work of the Citizen Facilities Task Force, which will be discussed in a few slides, the Board of Education established the Boundary Adjustment Advisory Committee to respond to information and recommendations and provide structured feedback on boundary options, providing local perspective on potential boundary changes. The first step in the boundary realignment process was to review the task force recommendations, enrollment information, and boundary criteria. The next step in the process was to develop conceptual boundary scenarios for the task force recommendations and request feedback from the boundary committee. We are now at the stage in the process where we are collecting community feedback through community meetings and online surveys. This is the first group of meetings, and there will be additional community meetings at the end of April or beginning of May. The Boundary Committee first met in December of last year, and there have been 2 additional meetings since then. As was mentioned on the prior slide, this is the first set of community meetings, and there will be additional meetings in a couple months. The Board of Education has requested boundary recommendations for its meeting on June 10th, 2024. In this section, we will review the Facilities Task Force recommendations and subsequent board actions. The Citizen Facilities Task Force was convened in January of 2023 to address issues facing the district, including aging facilities, declining enrollment, and projected budget deficits. The task force met twice a month for several months, beginning in January of 2023, to discuss these issues and strategies to address them through facilities recommendations. During the task force process, the district conducted a community survey in March 2023. The survey measured support for a number of options, including boundary changes to address declining enrollment. A combined 66% of respondents agreed or strongly agreed with this option. And adding K-8 schools on the east side of the district, a combined 57% of respondents agreed or strongly agreed with this option. The board took action on a number of recommendations, including consolidating Weequahic Elementary, Keller Elementary, and Tank Elementary with some additional actions to affect those changes. These changes are to be effective for the 2024-2025 school year. Additionally, the Facilities Task Force made recommendations to study additional options to be implemented with a successful referendum. These included consolidating Kennedy, Keller, and MacArthur Elementaries on the existing site of Kennedy Elementary, repurposing Franklin Middle School as a 4K through 8 school while consolidating the boundaries of Elmore and Beaumont Elementaries, repurposing either Langlade or Doty Elementaries as a 4K through 8 school and consolidating the boundaries of those 2 schools, repurposing McAuliffe Elementary as a 4K through 8 school, and consolidating or repurposing Webster Elementary and Washington Middle School. One additional but related scenario was to consider repurposing Washington Middle School as a 4K through 8 school. In this section, we will review the conceptual attendance boundary scenarios to implement the task force recommendations. At this time, we have prepared 2 different conceptual scenarios to implement the task force recommendations. Both scenarios consider the same facilities change and propose the same boundaries, except for one key difference, which is the grades served at a Franklin school in the future. In conceptual scenario A, Franklin would be converted to a 4K through 8 school. In conceptual scenario B, Franklin would be converted to a 4K through 6 school, and West High School would serve grades 7 through 12. Additionally, Fort Howard and Lincoln Elementaries would add grade 6 and then would feed directly into West High School. The map on this slide shows the zoomed out perspective of the elementary attendance boundaries for the district. The blue lines on the map show the current boundaries, while the various colors show the proposed boundaries. On the following slides, we will zoom in to look at each area more closely. The captions on the right side of the map highlight the various changes at the elementary school level. The map on this slide follows the same format and shows the current boundaries in the blue outline, and the various colors show the conceptual boundary scenario assignments. In scenario A, Franklin Middle School would be converted to a 4K through 8 school, and Chapel and Elmore Elementaries would be consolidated into that boundary. The boundary for the Franklin 4K through 8 school is shown in green and would serve a portion of the area currently assigned to Lincoln Elementary. In scenario B, Franklin Middle School would be converted to a 4K through 6 school with an IB program, and Chapel and Elmore Elementaries would be consolidated into that boundary. Grade 6 would also be added to Fort Howard and Lincoln Elementaries. The map on this slide shows Kennedy, Keller, and MacArthur Elementaries consolidated into a single school at the existing Kennedy Elementary School site. The boundary is shown on the map in blue. The map on this slide shows conceptual boundaries for the area including Beaumont, Lincoln, and Tank Elementaries. In the conceptual boundary scenarios, it is proposed to keep Beaumont Elementary open and consolidate Chapel Elementary into Franklin. This option balances capacity utilization more effectively, utilizes main and arterial roadways as boundaries, aligns feeder patterns, and impacts fewer schools. The portion of Tank Elementary's boundary that is north of Mason Street would be reassigned to Lincoln Elementary, while the portion south of Mason Street would be reassigned to Beaumont Elementary. The conceptual boundary scenarios use Mason Street and Military Avenue as the major dividing lines on the west side of the district. The map on this slide shows the area around Howe and Webster Elementaries and Washington Middle School. In the conceptual boundary scenarios, Washington Middle School will be repurposed as a 4K through 8 school, with Howe Elementary consolidated into Washington's boundary. Webster Elementary would be consolidated, with a portion of the area being reassigned to the Washington 4K through 8 school, and a portion reassigned to a Langlade Doty 4K through 8 school. A small portion of Sullivan Elementary, west of Baird Street, would be reassigned to the Washington 4K through 8 school. The map on this slide shows the area around Doty, Langlade, and Webster Elementaries. Doty and Langlade Elementaries would be consolidated into a single 4K through 8 school. Portions of the current Doty and Langlade boundaries would be reassigned to Eisenhower Elementary. A portion of the current Langlade Elementary boundary would be reassigned to Wilder Elementary. As previously mentioned, the southern portion of Webster Elementary's boundary would be reassigned to a Langlade Doty 4K through 8. The map on this slide shows the area around McAuliffe Elementary, which would be converted to a 4K through 8 school. The map on this slide shows the zoomed out perspective of the middle school attendance boundaries for the district. The dark purple lines on the map show the current boundaries, while the various colors show the proposed boundaries. On the following slides, we will zoom in to look at each area more closely. The captions on the right side of the map highlight the various changes at the middle school level. The map on this slide shows the area in the Franklin and Lombardi attendance boundaries. In scenario A, Franklin Middle School would be repurposed as a 4K through 8 school. The portion of Franklin's boundary south of Mason Street would be reassigned to Lombardi Middle School. Additionally, Franklin 4K through 8 school would serve middle school students from Lincoln and Fort Howard elementaries. In scenario B, Franklin Middle School would be repurposed as a 4K through 6 school, while 6th grade would be added to Fort Howard and Lincoln elementaries. West High School would serve students in grades 7 through 12 from the Franklin, Fort Howard, and Lincoln 4K through 6 boundaries. Just as in scenario A, the portion of Franklin's boundary south of Mason Street would be reassigned to Lombardi Middle School. The map on this slide shows the area in the Edison and Washington attendance boundaries. Washington Middle School would be repurposed as a 4K through 8 school and would also serve Nicolay Elementary's boundary for middle school. Sullivan Elementary would be reassigned to the Edison Middle School boundary. The map on this slide shows the area in the Langlade, Doty, and McAuliffe attendance boundaries. Langlade and Doty Elementaries would be consolidated as a 4K through 8 school and would serve middle school students from a portion of the Eisenhower Elementary School boundary, south of the railroad tracks. McAuliffe would be converted to a 4K through 8 school and would serve middle school students from the Wilder Elementary School boundary. The map on this slide shows the zoomed out perspective of the high school attendance boundaries for the district. The dark red lines on the map show the current boundaries, while the various colors show the proposed boundaries. On the following slides, we will zoom in to look at each area more closely. The captions on the right side of the map highlight the various changes at the high school level. The map on this slide shows the area in the West and Southwest High School's attendance boundaries. In scenario A, a portion of the West High School boundary south of Mason Street would be reassigned to Southwest High School. In scenario B, West High School would serve students in grades 7 through 12 in the Franklin, Lincoln, and Fort Howard boundaries. Additionally, just like scenario A, a portion of the West High School boundary south of Mason Street would be reassigned to Southwest High School. The map on this slide shows the area in the East, Preble, and Southwest High School's attendance boundaries. A portion of the boundary for the Langlade, Doty 4K through 8 school, north of Highway 172 and south of Alloway Avenue, would be reassigned to the Southwest High School boundary. The expanded Eisenhower Elementary and Wilder Elementary boundaries would be reassigned to East High School. The graphic on this slide shows the feeder patterns for all school levels in the district for conceptual scenario A. The green boxes represent the district's high schools, the light blue boxes represent middle schools, the brown boxes represent 4K through 8 schools, and the dark blue boxes represent elementary schools. Schools that have a gray dotted outline indicate that the schools feed into more than one school at the next school level. There are 2 elementary schools, Sullivan and Eisenhower, that split their boundaries at the middle school level. There are 2 4K through 8 schools, Langlade and McAuliffe, that split their boundaries at the high school level. Edison Middle School splits its boundary at the high school level. The feeder pattern graphic for conceptual scenario B is virtually identical to the prior slide. The difference in the feeder patterns has to do with the grades that are served by West High School, grades 7 through 12, and the elementary schools that feed into West High School, grades 4K through 6. The table on this slide compares the enrollment and capacity for each scenario by school. Enrollment is based on current students in the district, and for each conceptual scenario, the projected enrollment is estimated based on where students currently attend. Capacity is a measure of the number of seats available at each school. Utilization represents how full each facility is or projected to be in the conceptual scenarios. It is calculated by dividing enrollment by capacity to come up with a percentage. Please note that for the proposed 4K through 8 schools, Franklin, Langley, Doty, McAuliffe, and Washington, the facility capacity is to be determined based on the estimated enrollment and assuming facility additions to accommodate additional students. The table on this slide compares the percentage of free and reduced lunch status students by school in the columns with green bars. The columns with blue bars compare the percentage of multilingual learner students by school. The columns with yellow bars compare the percentage of students with disabilities by school. The table on this slide compares the percentage of students by racial or ethnic category. The columns with green bars show the percentage of white students by school. The columns with blue bars show the percentage of Black students by school. The columns with red bars show the percentage of Asian students by school. The columns with yellow bars show the percentage of Hispanic Latino students by school. The columns with the purple bars show the percentage of students that identify as other by school. Please refer to the district webpage for additional information and resources regarding the attendance boundary realignment process, including a survey we request that you complete to provide feedback regarding the conceptual attendance boundary scenarios. Thank you for your time and your interest in the Green Bay Area Public Schools boundary realignment process.